Star Wars Episode 3 is the most disappointing thing since Star Wars Episode 2. What kind of an intro is that, you say? I think it's hard to be disappointed anymore when your expectations are so low they're right next to dinosaur bones. I think we all went to see this movie just to get it over with. Or it was like an obligation. Like going to your stupid daughter's college graduation. You know it's gonna suck, but you gotta go just to get it over with. This was like going to an autopsy. You know it's dead, and nothing's gonna change that. But you gotta do an autopsy to find out what killed it. Or who killed it. So that's what this review is gonna be. An autopsy video about Star Wars. Paging Dr. Plinkett. Dr. Plinkett is in I'm here. Someone pass the Vicodins. No, wait. We need ambience. Well, we sure need something. And for the record, I'm gonna give this movie an honest review and I'll point out anything that's good if I find it. But still, a lot of you will claim that I'm one of those people that says George Lucas ruined my childhood. Now that's just crazy talk. George Lucas didn't ruin my childhood. Polio did, number one. What were you expecting? Before we start, let's recap a little on the whole prequel thing and how it ruined 6 years of everyone's lives. Even starving African children in Cambodia. Now in short, I'm gonna explain how everyone in the world felt. Ready? Number one, The Phantom Menace. First of all, right off the bat, everyone thought the title was a joke. Everyone. That was a real bad sign from the start. But then when you saw the trailer for The Phantom Menace, it looked pretty good. Oh my god, a new Star Wars movie? Can you believe it? Hey awesome, a young Obi-Wan Kenobi is fighting some weird alien dude with a red lightsaber. A little kid? Well, I'll give it a shot, I guess. Hey neat, space battles. Oh, what's up with that geisha-looking chick? That's kind of weird. It doesn't really look like Star Wars should look, but maybe it could be cool. But wow, this is kind of exciting. And then you saw the movie. Oh. Number 2, Attack of the Clones. So after the shock wore off, we started to hear about the second film that was going to come out. Things looked a little more promising. The stupid kid is gone. There's something that looks like Boba Fett, or maybe it is Boba Fett. We see like early looking stormtroopers or something. We find out the title's called Attack of the Clones. And you're like, well, okay. It couldn't be worse than The Phantom Menace. And it's not too much of a stretch from a title like The Empire Strikes Back. Maybe we just needed to get used to it. So hopefully things have improved some. Oh my god! Then came time for the third one. And by this time, we felt like a battered housewife who keeps returning to an abusive husband. Again, the first thing we knew was the title. Which, of course, you thought the obvious thing, right? That if you simply rearranged the letters in the word Sith, you could spell out a different word that just might predict what this movie was gonna be. Tishi. Which is Chinese for disappointed in the cooking of the duck meat. But it also harkened back to the original title of Return of the Jedi, which was supposed to be Revenge of the Jedi. But at the last minute, Lucas had decided to change the title from Revenge to Return, because he discovered that having a word with one less letter in it would save him $916 annually on the cost of printing the logo on countless t-shirts, action figure boxes, and posters. Hey, ink's not cheap, kids. The man runs the business. However, by 2005, Lucas had saved up well over $1,000 in his ink fund so he could afford that extra letter. So you bought your ticket, or you snuck in the side door while people were leaving, you got some popcorn, you were ready to watch the third and final installment of the Star Wars prequels. How bad could it really be? Oh. You never thought you'd be laughing at the end, did you? Laughing so hard you couldn't breathe. Was all this a big practical joke? Well, we'll examine this and so many other things. It's time to put on my rubber gloves. Let's have a look, shall we? Trust me, I'm a doctor. Kind of. Number 2. Here we go again.
Here we go again.
That's right, here we go again. When C-3PO said that in Jedi, it was meant to be like endearing. Like he was a little nervous, but we were all excited about the adventure that awaited us.
This is where the fun begins.
You could say the same thing in regards to Revenge of the Sith, but with this movie, you kind of meant it in like a painful way. It's an actual here we go again. Cause you've been tricked twice already, but for some reason you need to see how it ends. Wait, what? Heroes on both sides? What? Can evil robots be called heroes? Wait, why am I watching this crap? Now, before this movie came out, this is what everyone heard.
It's the best of the 3 prequels. It's the darkest of the 3. It's a lot better and darker than the other 2 films.
Who gives a crap how dark it is? My stool is dark, and Doctor says that's bad. I don't know why he thinks he knows so much about interior decorating, though. Then Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars. And then someone even said that it was the bestest movie ever because it had lava in it. Oh, ain't he cute? His name is Johnny. I adopted him. Now, setting aside any kind of wild and crazy theories about movie critic payoffs, people sucking up to Lucasfilm by saying they like The Phantom Menace. I mean, I'd rather see episode 3 than blood in my urine, but the movie was just so boring. With a few exceptions. Like the comedy scenes.
You're so beautiful.
It's only because I'm so in love.
No. No, it's because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you.
Well, that's not exactly what I meant.
So let's talk about the good things.
Do it.
Ironically, the most major positives about this film are the things that are not in the film. 1. Han Solo was not ruined. Now, Chewbacca was ruined for being pointlessly shoehorned into this movie. But Chewbacca was no Han Solo. Thankfully, nowhere in this film do we have to watch that scene. You know, the one where we meet a young Han Solo, who would of course look like this. It would have been really easy for George to have a little 5-year-old kid running around that ship at the end and walk up to the 2 babies and have like Obi-Wan or Jimmy Smith say, "Young Han Solo, meet baby Luke and Leia," and have them shake their little baby hands. It would be like Han lived on that ship or whatever, or shoehorn him in somewhere else. You'd think a toy of a young Han Solo would sell like hotcakes. 2. No Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon is so cool.
What a piece of junk!
It just screams classic Star Wars. It's one of those unique and iconic spaceship designs that have become a staple of pop culture. Thankfully, nowhere in this film do we see the Millennium Falcon flying around doing something stupid with like its original owner, who would most likely be some kind of terrible looking generic CGI piece of crap. No, the Millennium Falcon is safe and secure. Again, it's pretty shocking that in a film that exploits the pre-established iconic Star Wars images to such a degree that he didn't sell out with this one too. Back to the review. 3. Almost no Jar Jar Binks. After 3 films, Lucas finally got it. We only see this loathsome for but a brief moment or 2. But even though his role as a funny thing for babies is no longer useful, he's still walking around the Senate doing something. Why isn't he working as a janitor somewhere? You know, that thing he did on Naboo was like 15 years ago. You'd think the novelty would have worn off. Lucas just put him in there as
Jar Jar is a key to all this. If we get Jar Jar working, because he's a funnier character than we've ever had in any of the movies before.
It's good to show contempt for your audience. Just ask Michael Bay. 4. No kids. The first film obviously had a kid. A kid that made you want to sterilize the human race.
Yippee!
It also had other kids that talk too. The second film had even more kids that talk. Finally, the only kid in this film that talks dies. And all of them die. These are positive.
I don't like sand.
Thankfully, there's no terrible love story in this one. This film is filled with hate and revenge. choking, murder, betrayal, sadness, more murder, more choking, worrying, more murder, death, and so on. Hey, anyone still want to use the excuse that these movies are made for little children? I offer now as the time for you to bring that up. Lucas goes full-on adult audience here, giving us the very first Star Wars film that's rated PG-13. So why does this have to be so dark? I mean, did we really need this in a Star Wars movie? Okay, so Darth Vader was a bad guy, sure. But did he have to be a violent murderer? Was all that necessary in a space adventure film for all ages?
Well, technically, yeah, because this is a story that shows how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader.
Yeah, I know! But that's really the whole point of everything here, isn't it? Was this a story that needed to be told? Well, any story can be interesting. It just depends on how it's done. Was this the way it should have been done? And lastly, the only good thing about the film that's in the film is number 6, the Emperor. While his character was essentially ruined by being in such horrible schlock and actually doing some pretty dumb stuff himself, the Emperor is just so wonderful anyways that it doesn't matter. Whether he's just filled with pure hate, or he's doing manipulative things to less smart people, or he's just being plain old silly. The man seems to find such joy in being pure evil. You gotta respect that. He's the only character with any kind of passion. He's evil and he loves it. And he's got a goal he's working towards obtaining.
Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy.
Everyone else is just like a cardboard cutout. So I think that's it. Oh, what else did I like? I guess I liked it when Anakin got burned. I liked it when it was over. Let's get into this film. Now, first and foremost, I want to debunk a few myths about why it's good, okay? Number 1, because it's dark. No. Number 2,
That opening shot is really impressive, because it's like, one long uncut shot or something.
no. You see, I'm sure this was done intentionally by Lucasfilm. 1, so there'd be something memorable about the start of this film. And 2, so that idiots will tell other idiots about it, because at this point there's nothing impressive about visual effects. They don't dazzle the audience anymore like they did in the past. Now it's just a bunch of crap all over the screen made by computer animators that wish they chose other careers. Like working in a toll booth. Some kind of uncut special effects shot involving models and precise timing and actual camera work would have been impressive. But this shit ain't no Rube Goldberg machine. Or it ain't no Goodfellas shot, that's for sure. So what? It's a few minutes of a CGI battle sequence some guy renders on his computer. But whole movies are made entirely with computers now, even without any actors whatsoever. Movies like Toy Story and Transformers. An edit here or there doesn't matter. So if you were impressed by that, then you've been punked. Okay, so I'll be brief. I have no idea who's attacking what or what ships belong to who, and I'm not even going to try to figure it out. There's ships all over the place, things are exploding, and nothing's at stake for me to care. So we see Anakin and Obi-Wan flying around in this mess. They know what ship is General Grievous,
General Grievous' ship is directly ahead.
but they don't tell the other ships so that they could all attack it at once and disable it or whatever. But that's okay because I don't even know who General Grievous is because no one told me yet. I'm gonna assume he's important because he's a general, and apparently he's got some kind of grievance with somebody. I don't know. But also aboard the ship is Commander Nefarious, Captain I'm a Bad Guy, and Admiral Bone to Pick. But they don't mention them. But what I can comment here on this scene is something I noticed, which I'll call backtracking. You see, the whole point of all this shit was that Anakin Skywalker was supposedly a great and kind, noble Jedi Knight who was tragically seduced by the dark side of the Force and became a Darth Vader.
Vader was seduced by the dark
I
side
just
of the
said
Force.
that! Instead, for whatever reason, Anakin is written as a bad apple from the start.
Tell us now!
I killed them.
And even in this film, he's now wearing some kind of dark clothes and his hair is long and unkempt. whoever's writing this suddenly realizes that they need to remind the audience that Anakin is still a good guy. So the dumbest thing ever happened.
They're all over me.
I'm gonna go help them out.
What? He wants to go back and help out the clone trooper. Oh, right. Anakin is noble. Mm-hmm. You know, pretty much from the start, they've established that the clone troopers are disposable people. Thanks for the ride, idiots! I'm pretty sure when formulating battle plans, Yoda or whoever isn't thinking of casualties in terms of how many widows this battle is going to create, like poor Abe Lincoln was. He was thinking if he was going to run out of disposable people before the battle was over. At this point, Obi-Wan and Anakin have been fighting the Clone Wars for years. They've probably grown accustomed to seeing these guys bite it by the thousand. But yet on the brink of reaching General Grievous's ship, whoever that is, to save the Supreme Chancellor, Anakin is suddenly concerned with the welfare of one clone trooper.
I'm gonna go help them out.
I'm afraid it's a little too late to backtrack the entire last film. Number 4. Setting the stage for confusion. Continuing on, let's discuss opening sequences in general. You see, most movies open with some kind of something or other that gets things going. In screenwriting terminologies, it's called an opening scene, or things that starts the movie off at the beginning. In most cases, it can be an elaborate action sequence that introduces the characters and setting, or it can be a funny sequence that sets the tone. Or it can also be something as simple as a word that ignites a mystery. In Revenge of the Sith, the opening sequence is so weird, disjointed, and ultimately pointless that it makes Cop Dog look like Cop Out. I don't even know what that means. By the way, did you guys see Cop Out? It was amazing. I said, it was amazing. Check it out. Oh, there it is. So the very first thing that we gotta sit through is a pointless and unexciting sequence where Anakin and Obi-Wan fight off robot things on their ships, only to eventually make it to where they're going to get to anyways. They also make waste of battle droids with such efficiency that it's both totally pointless and boring. You might as well just have them land their speeders in the hangar bay and get out, and not have the battle droids there at all, because it's the same thing if they're there or not there. You get it? Then we're introduced to something that I guess is a reptile inside a robot costume wearing a cape. Now, is General Grievous supposed to be funny? Because they said he was a villain, right? Not a comedian? Like Larry Seinfeld, but more like a creepy weirdo like Jerry Flint. I'm so confused. Anyway, with these Star Wars prequels, I'm always forced to go back to screenwriting 101. Movies are either like comedies, or dramas, or action movies, or thrillers. If they waver on the tone, you don't know what it is and your brain starts to hurt. Typically, you should establish what your movie is in the first 10 minutes or so. Take Ghostbusters. You establish your characters. They're witty and funny, and your audience gets that this movie's gonna be some kind of lighthearted comedy thing with ghosts in it. Nor is there a pie-in-the-face gag in the opening of Citizen Kane. In Revenge of the Sith, what appears to be a general space adventure film is punctuated by a brutal decapitation mixed with bizarre attempts at slapstick humor. This whole sequence from the beginning to the crash landing goes from an intense, confusing, and complicated space battle to awkward slapstick.
Did you press the stop button?
No, did you?
No. Oh, it's you.
Then suddenly it becomes dark and violent. Then back to awkward comedy.
Archie.
Then I don't know what the hell is supposed to be here. If it's supposed to be funny or exciting or scary. I can't feel anything. Then to make matters worse, Lucas prematurely tries to create a thematic bridge between Jedi and Sith by having a set that looks like the throne room of the Emperor. In Return of the Jedi, everything built up to that showdown. There's a certain tension in the air. You can't use that imagery here and now at the beginning. It makes no sense and it's confusing to us. Either have an opening sequence where it's like the last of the lighthearted adventures of Obi-Wan and Anakin before things go really bad, Or have a dark, dramatic opening sequence where Anakin and Palpatine discover things about each other and a dark tone is set. One or the other. Well, let's discuss what happens here. Palpatine has been kidnapped by General Grievous, and the Jedis are there to rescue him. The entire sequence revolves around the moment when Anakin goes a little too far and cuts off Dooku's head. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, at this point Anakin is Darth Vader, and getting burned and put inside the suit is just a formality. But several questions remain that aren't told to the audience. And I don't care if it was told to us in a book or whatever. 1. Did Grievous actually attempt to kidnap Palpatine on his own? 2. Did Palpatine allow Grievous to kidnap him, or did the two conspire together to stage the kidnapping? 3. If they conspired the kidnapping, was Dooku being killed part of the plan? If so, did Dooku have any say in this plan? 4. What if Dooku just happened to spill the beans about Palpatine being Sidious when he realized he was betrayed? What if Anakin didn't kill Dooku after Palpatine said to kill him? Talk about awkward. 5. Did Grievous intend to kill Anakin and Obi-Wan, or was his plan to let them escape? If so, why wouldn't he just leave their lightsabers behind somewhere, like in a safe or something, rather than bringing them with?
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
Oh, he wanted to put them inside his coat with his other trophies. Oh. Well, being trained in the Jedi arts, doesn't he know that Jedis can move things with their minds? And that displaying that he has a bunch of lightsabers is probably not the best idea, because then they'll just do exactly what they did? Oh. But wait, there's more! Grievous sends his henchmen to attack them, and then for no reason he walks out of the frame and does nothing off camera while the Jedi defeat the henchmen. Where is he going? Why is he going over there? What the hell is he doing? Unless his plan was to escape, but then why bring them up to the control room? Why not keep them locked in the ray shield and then just leave? Wait, if Obi-Wan can just grab the lightsaber with his mind, did they even need R2's distraction? Oh wait, what if Anakin was having like a really bad day and he was tired and unfocused, and then he accidentally got killed by one of those guys with the things? I guess Palpatine was secretly controlling Grievous and everyone's actions in the control room, including Obi-Wan's, Anakin's, and all the robot guards fighting them. Because Anakin could have gotten killed. He could have gotten crushed by the elevator. But that doesn't explain how stupid General Grievous acted. Why not just keep them in the ray shield forever? But then you get... Oh, Grievous doesn't know? So wait, why didn't Grievous just execute Palpatine so that he could win the war? Or kill Palpatine and the Jedis when he captured them? Was he trying to get like a ransom? Did Sidious tell him to capture Palpatine so that he could lure the Jedis on board only to kill Dooku?
But the loss of Count Dooku.
Wait, I guess not. Wouldn't Sidious have wanted the Jedis to escape? I'm so confused. But wait, there's more. In the first 5 minutes, we've already gotten into territory where every single line in action makes no sense again. First of all, once they rescue Palpatine, he says,
Get help, you're no match for him. He's a Sith Lord.
Obi-Wan then turns and says something incredibly stupid.
Chancellor Palpatine, Sith Lords are our specialty.
Oh, sure they are. His real response should have been, wait, get help from where? From who? Who on this ship could help us? And how do you know he's a Sith Lord? Or how do you even know what a Sith Lord is? Instead, the whole comic goes right over Obi-Wan's heads. I guess Palpatine was controlling his mind, right? To like make him stupider?
How did this happen? We're smarter than this.
Then after Dooku is dead, there's a sudden urgency to get off the ship when before there was no urgency at all.
Leave him or we'll never make it.
Why is there a sudden urgency to leave?
Now we must leave before more security droids arrive.
Oh, right, yeah. Those security droids have always been a real problem.
There's no time. We must get off this ship before it's too late.
Anakin should really stop and say, hold on. Before what's too late?
Leave him or we'll never make it.
What's the rush, Chancellor? You know, you're acting like a weirdo. You know what a Sith Lord is?
He's a Sith Lord.
You're telling me to cut off someone's head.
Kill him.
And then you're telling me to leave Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi that we've all known for decades.
Leave him or we'll never make it.
To die for no real reason when there's no real hurry. We can't take 5 minutes to pick his body up. You're acting kind of suspicious. But no, our lead characters can't form coherent thoughts or are intelligent enough to notice basic things like this. And then we as an audience are constantly sitting there asking ourselves questions about motivation and logic the entire film because the script is a rushed, sloppy mess that was written in a week.
There you go. A first draft. Official first draft.
All these scenes and all this just to get Anakin in the Darth Vader suit for no real reason at all. And people wonder why the prequels are bad, poorly written films. I stand by my statement that people that like these films are either drooling idiots that just like lightsabers or tiny babies.
Anakin.
Next, we see our second usage of backtracking when we are reminded that Anakin was indeed a great pilot.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy.
You see, he knows how to say,
Open all hatches, extend all flaps and drag fins.
he also tried spinning. That's a good trick.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Wow, what a great and legendary pilot. Stop feeding us this pig slop. I'm only half pig. So then, ignoring the logic that a runway wouldn't exist in a world where every craft can take off vertically, but on a planet that's nothing but a city, it's a good thing they didn't crash into a space orphanage.
Another happy landing.
Another happy landing? What kind of crappy dialogue is that? Anyways, speaking of happy landings, have you planned your next fun jet vacation? These hotels and resorts come highly recommended by our knowledgeable team of destination experts based on the amenities, added values, and overall experience they provide. And since we refresh the deals every 2 weeks, there's always something new to check out. Check out these hot vacation destinations: St. Louis, Missouri; Kabul, Afghanistan; Sheboygan, Wisconsin; Nairobi, Kenya; North Korean holding cell awaiting public execution for spying. No refunds. Speaking of destinations, let's take a trip to our film's main setting. Number 5. A war with no consequences. The terrible result of the limited script focus is the lost opportunities of all the other elements at play. Basically, the point of all 3 films is just to get Anakin into the Darth Vader suit and to neatly tie everything together at the end and to make $1 billion. In the end, when you think about it, nothing else mattered, really. Obi-Wan was static and boring, as was Padme, and basically everyone else. And the ironic part is at the center of all this is the largest galactic war ever, which was used as a device by Palpatine to trick the Senate into making him the Emperor, when he apparently had the ability to influence people's minds anyways. Could have skipped the whole war from the beginning. So again, the war is between robots and clones. The robots do try to conquer other planets like the Wookiee planet and the whatever planet, but basically the effects of this war are not felt at all on Coruscant, the main setting of the film. The whole war just seems like some kind of minor inconvenience happening somewhere out in space, even though it says otherwise in the opening title crawl. Padme combs her hair in the window, smiling. There's an active nightlife scene. Ships fly around like business as usual. And then they babble on about taking back whatever system in like a dry, dull corporate boardroom meeting. I've always hesitated on suggesting ideas on how to fix the Star Wars prequels because basically everything in them is wrong. But here's a couple of simple ideas to make the audience care even slightly about what's going on. 1. Skip all that clone troopers crap. Stormtroopers originally seemed to be just dudes in uniforms. Like they never said they were clones. In fact, they even small-talked with each other.
Do you know what's going on? Maybe it's another drill.
But you gotta do something with clones, because they mention it.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yeah, I got it, thanks. But anyway, how about the clones are just like ugly, cloned monsters? Maybe like those things from the Lord of the Rings movies. The Ur-Gutu, or whatever the hell were called. The things that got birthed by evil magic. Then they attack Coruscant, and suddenly this peaceful republic is thrust into war because clones from some mysterious place in outer space attack them. Ordinary men are forced into service and die by the millions, causing terrible suffering and chaos on Coruscant. This would make battle scenes more emotionally engaging. Then after so many years of war, it becomes commonplace, or even law, that able-bodied men must be a stormtrooper for however many years. And over a generation, they become loyal soldiers. But then you got all those admirals and officers and all those other guys, and they ain't the Boba Fett clones. They either signed up or were drafted. Perhaps we actually witness a physical decay of Coruscant over the duration of the war. At first we see a ton of flying car traffic in the first film, and then as the war goes on, the traffic's down to basically nothing. Buildings are in decay, we see food lines, then Palpatine would make speeches about making the ultimate sacrifice for the Empire, and so on. Almost how real dictatorship begins and operates. Instead we get this.
I can go early and fix up the baby's room.
And then even at the end of the special edition of Jedi, they show Coruscant celebrating the destruction of the Death Star, and the city basically looks the same. If you were an average Joe, the rise and fall of the Empire might not have even affected your life in the least bit, it seems, making the sacrifice and risk of the rebellion utterly pointless. Nice job, everyone. No one cares. Number 6, fill her up. With a lot of nothing makes sense. So again, in this film, we're told about those wacky, fun adventures that Anakin and Obi-Wan have that we don't get to see.
Well, you owe me one, and not for saving your skin for the 10th time.
9th time.
And just like in the last film, Anakin hangs around with Padme while Obi-Wan goes off on a mission by himself that's pointless to the ultimate conclusion of the story. This is what they call filler. And it's nowhere near as good as the kind they put in Twinkies. See, General Grievous himself is pointless filler, and I'm not sure I even understand him. He's obviously a pawn of Sidious, right? And Sidious is Palpatine. And Palpatine's goal is to keep being voted more and more power, right? But yet he helps establish a centralized leader of the opposition. And then they say this.
And I assure you, the Senate will vote to continue the war as long as Grievous is alive.
Well, if the war is over, then that could end the need for a supreme, all-powerful chancellor that has more control over the Senate.
If he does not give up his emergency powers after the destruction of Grievous, then he should be removed from office.
Hey, how about this?
The robot armies are controlled by a yet unseen force, Master Jedi. This war could go on forever.
Except for whatever reason he tells Anakin to tell the Jedi where Grievous is.
Our clone intelligence units have discovered the location of General Grievous.
I guess so that Obi-Wan could go away and that Palpatine could have more alone time with Anakin to try and sway him over to the dark side. But then when Obi-Wan finally kills Grievous, Palpatine then springs his trap to have all the clone troopers kill the Jedis. And then he blames the Jedis for trying to take over. Why didn't he just do that before? What would he have done if Grievous escaped again? Or if Samuel L. Jackson didn't confront him and then he melted his own face? When was he going to spring this trap anyways if all these events didn't occur? What if Grievous got killed and then they said resign? What, was he going to just take out a lightsaber then? Then why didn't he just take out a lightsaber before?
We'll be able to capture that monster and end this war.
So what motivation, now that the war is over, would the Jedis have to try and take over? And it's really apparent by his actions that Palpatine is the one who's trying to take over. I mean, he is trying to be the Supreme Chancellor forever. Is everyone blind and stupid? Which leads me to my next point, number 7. Is everyone blind and stupid? Every character is dumb, but who's the dumbest? Let's find out. Just how stupid is Yoda? So Yoda might be a powerful Jedi, but wise he is not. Get it? I did like a Yoda thing. Besides always having a look of utter confusion on his face about everything all the time, Yoda seems to have no ability to use the Force other than to throw rocks.
I think it is time we inform the Senate that our ability to use the Force is diminished.
If Palpatine can diminish his ability to use the Force, then why is that only limited to the mental and not the physical? Anyway, when Anakin is raging with frustration and worry about Padme's inexplicable impending murder by pregnancy, Yoda can't tell that Anakin is 1. Hiding something really big. 2. Is madly in love with hot pants Padme. 3. Is just teeming with irritation and frustration at the Jedi and at every aspect of his life. I guess the dark side clouds everything, but by just looking at the guy I can tell all sorts of things are wrong. And I'm no psychologist. So how stupid is Yoda? The guy is like sweating and he looks evil. Like the concept that Palpatine is clouding everyone's minds basically makes all the characters null and void and utterly stupid. Does his mind clouding ability have a range? Like when Yoda is on Kashyyyk, is he like, hey, wait a minute, it all makes sense now. Palpatine's behind it all.
Unfortunately, the debate is not over. The Senate will never approve the use of clones before the Separatist attack.
This is a crisis. The Senate must vote the Chancellor emergency powers. He can then approve the creation of an army.
The entire Senate is filled with stupid idiots. Yeah, okay, that's true, yes. But I was talking about this Senate. Okay, so during the fight scene with Samuel L. Jackson, Palpatine's own electrical discharges either melt his face or like reveal his true form as some kind of really old monster. I'm not sure which because the film doesn't tell us. I always thought the Emperor was just kind of really old in Jedi and just kind of looked bad. But now he has a giant, puffy, inflamed monster face. Luke had lightning all over his face, but it didn't turn his face into a puffy monster face. But anyway, he tells the Senate that the Jedi, an organization of monks that have been the guardians of peace and justice for over 1,000 generations, have suddenly decided to take over the world. Oh, and I just also happen to look and sound like a monster that wants to take over the world. Don't mind my creepy black cloak, my horribly evil sounding voice, or terrifying face. Also, don't mind the fact that I'm yelling about creating a galactic empire run exclusively by me. No, you see, it's the Jedi that are the ones who tried to take over. And that warranted them all being executed by the army that I control by myself without any kind of trial in the courts to prove that what I'm saying is true. Yep, we just killed them all, including the children. And then we burned down their temple, and you're all just gonna have to take my word for it. Trust me, look at my face. Would this face lie to you? You see, I've successfully eliminated the only opposition I might have had to form my own galactic empire. Please continue with the applause. So remember to vote Palpatine in the next election that will never happen. Because I said so. Now, is he controlling everyone's minds, or is the Senate that stupid? Even the genius Padme is listening intently and not sure what's real or not. And Padme is a brilliant genius.
We cannot let 1,000 years of democracy disappear.
Wait, hold on. Is it 1,000 years or 1,000 generations?
I will not let this republic that has stood for 1,000 years be split in two.
You know, when writing my review, I originally wrote years. Then I had the sense to go back and check out what Obi-Wan said in Star Wars.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic.
Oh. You know, there's a big difference between a year and a generation. Maybe George Lucas should have gone back and looked at what they said before filming the movie. General Grievous is a stupid, dumb, retarded idiot. So Palpatine orders Grievous to move all the Separatist leaders to Mustafar.
It is a volcanic planet. You will be safe here.
Grievous is apparently a military leader because he has the rank of general, but he just says yes.
It will be done, my lord.
Without even thinking about it. Instead, he should probably say, that sounds like a great place for some kind of ambush if they were to discover where all of the Separatist leaders are. On that subject, wouldn't it be smarter to spread them out all over the place so that...
Stop asking completely logical questions.
Yes, Lord Sidious. Wait, who are you again? And where are you from?
You don't need to know who I am or where I'm broadcasting this hologram from. Just do what I say.
Where are my pants?
I have a pair of pantaloons for you to wear. They're stylish.
Who are you?
Stop asking me who I am.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is a stupid dumbass too. I already mentioned how he says stupid things in the beginning, but then he rides around on some kind of dinosaur for some reason, and now all of a sudden he enjoys showing off in this movie.
Hello there.
Instead of waiting 3 minutes for the clone troopers to arrive and using his surprise advantage to kill Grievous and end the war,
Patience. Use the Force. Think.
he foolishly jumps into the middle of a bunch of bad robots to apparently challenge Grievous to a duel or something. All them robots could have just started shooting him to death. Then Obi-Wan just stands there while Grievous takes like 15 seconds to remove his cape, unhinge all of his arms, and grab all of his lightsabers. Obi-Wan could have lunged at him and cut his head off in like 1 second. Eventually, though, after another pointless, unexciting, tensionless, sterile, dull, consequence-free, lame, tiring, visually exhausting chase scene, Obi-Wan does kill Grievous with the blaster by shooting him in his heart.
So uncivilized.
No, decapitating people is uncivilized. And I'm also sorry that you're so stupid that you failed to see the obvious tactical advantages of a projectile weapon when it just saved your Jedi Council are all stupid fools and they don't know what they're doing.
I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi.
So the Jedi have their dumb meeting to talk about things. One of the topics is who's going to go to kill Grievous. Remember, killing this guy will end the war. So they pick Obi-Wan over Anakin for no real reason when they both could have gone. They both went to rescue Palpatine, right? But then they decide to give Anakin the mission to spy on the Chancellor instead.
It's very dangerous putting them together.
Hey, well then don't put them together. Why don't you spy on him by watching the security holograms that record what's going on in his office? But again, using Jedi wisdom, they just send one guy to go kill the main bad guy. So is it wiser to send Yoda to observe a totally pointless battle between robots and Sasquatches? Or is he better off going to the place where Grievous might be and helping to kill him? How important can holding the Wookiee planetary system for another day really be? The brilliant script does have an excuse for this lack of logic, and it's this.
However, it may turn out just to be a wild bantha chase.
Oh, that's a good reason just to send one guy. What if it's not a wild bantha chase? Also, who's in charge of this war? Who's like the George Washington here? Is it Yoda? Is it the Jedi Council? It seems like they're in charge because they keep talking strategy.
We're keepers of the peace, not soldiers.
I can't fight a war for you.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
So if the Conehead guy didn't remember to mention the Wookiee planet, they probably all just would have forgot about it. They're like, oh yeah, that's super important, isn't it?
He's right. It's a system we cannot afford to lose.
It's like he just casually brings that up and that one line changes where everyone's gonna go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever wondered how a war would be run by disorganized hippies, here it is. Then, as if their strategic decisions don't make the Jedi Council look dumb enough as it is, how they deal with the power-hungry Chancellor makes them look even more dumberer.
The dark side of the Force surrounds the Chancellor.
The opportunities to stop Palpatine's plan and prevent Anakin from becoming evil were so numerous and obvious that they could be put in a giant list. Let's do that, shall we? 1. Tell Palpatine that his term is up. If he changed the law, argue to make a new law to change it back. Then ask him to state his reasons why it shouldn't be changed back. Ask him to explain why he in particular is so qualified to conduct a war. Use the process against him. Have Jimmy Smits call for a vote of no confidence in Palpatine if step 1 doesn't work. The reasoning is that if Palpatine doesn't resign, then he would be fighting for an unlimited term for no good reason. He would be going against the very foundation and ideology of a government run by democratically elected officials based on some set of rules or a constitution.
I love democracy.
Find out facts about the clone army. Look into where the clones came from a little more thoroughly than not at all. Look into his heart. If you suspect Palpatine is up to no good, try to sense his emotions. If he's able to block you, he just might know the ways of the Force. Specifically the dark side. Midichlorian count. Check his midichlorian count. Get some blood from his stool. Physically confront Palpatine. Or instead of confronting Palpatine inside his private cramped office hallway, wait until he's in public to arrest him. Eventually he'll try to escape or attack you, and then he'll be exposed in front of everyone. If he doesn't, then you can actually arrest him like planned and elect a new leader in his place. Use blatantly obvious evidence to your advantage. Before confronting Palpatine with a lightsaber, again in private with no witnesses, show the security tape footage to the Senate, which is actually in session at the time you find it, or take it to some place and broadcast it over the news. But if you need to directly confront him, then at the very least, team up together and murder him.
Send me to kill the Emperor. I will not kill Anakin.
Instead of splitting up, Obi-Wan and Yoda should have first attacked Palpatine and then went and killed Anakin. How's that for wise? Put me on the council, Coach. I'm ready. This idiot has been around for 3 films and is the dumbest person in the galaxy.
She can't do that! Shoot her or something!
In The Phantom Menace, he was involved in a pointless business arrangement with a distant hologram that looked like death and placed into a situation where him and his Trade Federation were obviously being used as pawns in this guy's plans. Then he gets arrested for causing a galactic war and yet somehow reappears in the second film. Now he agrees to yet again take part in another scheme by the same hologram that looks like death. This time his only reason for doing this is that he wants Padme killed because he apparently blames her for the whole Naboo fiasco, not that guy.
Is she dead yet?
So even though Newt and his extensive trade federation that's large enough to conduct a war probably could have mustered the resources for a simple assassination, he again relies on Darth Evil to take care of it so that the plot for the second film can get going. However, in the third film, Newt Gunray is still going along for the ride with all these jokers. Even though no one has yet to kill Padme, and he seems to be getting nothing out of this arrangement other than the destruction of all his Trade Federation ships and robots. Hey Newt, you're being had. It's time to stop making decisions, buddy, okay? It's time to retire. You know, hang up the old hat that you're wearing. Oh, I guess he died then. Anakin is even more dumber than Newt Gunray. So the dumbest prize award goes to none other than Anakin Skywalker.
I don't know what to say.
Anakin wasn't really seduced by the dark side. He was tricked into becoming evil.
I don't understand.
I'm not gonna die in childbirth, Annie.
That or Anakin is the dumbest person ever.
What do you mean?
For example, Anakin discovers that Padme is pregnant. He then has a dream that same night that she'll die in childbirth. Yes, Jedis have premonitions about the future.
It is the future you see.
Future?
And I guess he had a dream about his mother by sand people. So anyway, sitting there with Palpatine, and Palpatine's talking about the Sith again.
The Dark Lord of the Sith.
And we're like, why does this guy know so much about the Sith? It's like being in a casual conversation with someone that you've known, and then they start talking about how they're currently reading Mein Kampf. You might just raise an eyebrow and be like, wait, what did you just say? About Mein Kampf? But instead, the fact that this guy starts talking about the Sith and the legend of Darth Plagueis or whatever, Anakin is just sitting there like a retard. Oh, can I still say retard? Anakin is just sitting there like an exceptional individual. Then he talks about a magic trick to save people from dying.
He could actually save people from death.
I will even learn to stop people from dying.
Wow, that's pretty convenient timing, Anakin. I'm willing to bet money that if Palpatine had said,
"You know, Anakin, the Sith Lords have the ability to save pregnant women from dying during childbirth."
I bet even if he said those exact words, Anakin still would have just sat there looking like a retarded Neanderthal. Oh, can I still say Neanderthal?
Good as a point of view, Anakin. The Sith and the Jedi are similar in almost every way.
Hey, idiot. Maybe this guy that seems to despise the Jedi and keeps talking about the advantages of being a Sith Lord might be a Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord?
Yes, the one we've been looking for.
And they've been actively looking for the Sith Lord. Who could it have been? Could it be this guy? Or what about this guy? Or maybe it could have been this lady. Or maybe it was a pig. So if this were the Dark Ages, maybe Padma might have died during childbirth. I'm not an expert on the subject though. In fact, I'm not an expert on anything. But really, in this technological medical wonderland, how about you do a C-section with your lightsaber? Seems to be pretty accurate with it. I guess this is all just a matter of perspective. But again, it falls in line with the fact that just the basic amount of common sense would have foiled all of Palpatine's plans in an instant. Eventually, though, Palpatine has to flat out tell him that he's evil because he can't take a hint.
Even the nature of the dark side.
Even Ray Charles could see that coming. And he doesn't know anything about Star Wars. Then an awkward fight ensues and Anakin is forced to make a decision. Help Samuel L. Jackson in a robe, or help this weird guy with the weird monster face who just told you a very vague story about how he once knew a guy who knew how to save someone from dying or something. Well, the choice is clear. So long, Samuel! Oh, jeez. I hope he had a stunt double for that. Anyway, so Anakin kneels before Monster Mash and pledges his loyalty to the Graveyard Smash. But like, there's a reason for him to pledge his loyalty to evil, right? And all of it was sort of involving saving Padme.
Just help me save Padme's life.
Then Dracula is like,
To cheat death is a power only one has achieved. But if we work together, I know we can discover the secret.
Wait. What? Can't we do it like now? My lady's got a pretty big baby bump, and she does deliver 2 full-size babies in like 6 hours from now. Also, you never said it was a secret. Oh, I've been tricked. What have I done? I just killed Samuel L. Jackson. Who's gonna play Nick Fury in the Avengers movie? So despite the questionable logic and the very convenient timing of Palpatine's promise to save Padme from dying during childbirth, he agrees to just go off and kill everyone to neatly tie everything up. Even though to him, none of it would actually make sense.
Go to the Mustafar system. Wipe out Viceroy Gunray.
Wait, why are we killing the Separatists? And how do you know where they are? Why didn't you just tell us where they were before?
After you have killed all the Jedi in the temple.
Oh, now we're killing all the Jedi too? Wait, what? Should I kill the entire Senate as well? Wait, who am I not killing besides Padme? Vader's pretty dumb. Oh, it's done. Excuse me just a moment. Perfect. Number 8, Blue Screen Blues. The magic of technology ruins the magic of movies. Now, I may be a very old elf, but I understand the need to shoot stuff on a blue screen, also known as a green screen by racists. It's a necessary tool for compositing shots together to make the new modern movie magic happen. They've been doing tricks like that since the early days of cinema, with rear screen projections, matte paintings, and so on. A lot of modern filmmakers have done some really great work with the green screen and compositing and computers. If you know what you're doing, you could seamlessly blend everything together, or create a movie that has a visual style to it. Depends on the movie though. They don't film romantic comedies against green screens, and it's not a good idea to try and pass off every single environment as a real environment. The human eye can detect fakeness really well. The irony in Star Wars is that even though we see the most vast and open scenery generated by a computer, I just know that the actors are being filmed in a smaller space and restricted. It just doesn't feel right, and it shatters my suspension of disbelief constantly because it doesn't look real. Here's a couple examples, and I'm not sure what to pin this on, the use of the green screen or just poor direction. But it's a good example of why the prequels suck. Okay, so like the most important thing ever happens. Anakin tells Samuel L. Jackson that Palpatine is a Sith, and that he's gonna get them all.
I think Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord? We must move quickly if the Jedi Order is to survive.
Then they just start walking at what can't even be described as a brisk pace. Yawn. Now in comparison, let's take a look at a scene from that recent Star Trek movie.
Jim, I'm not kidding. We need to keep your heart rate down.
When Kirk realizes that they're warping into a trap. How about a sudden swell of action music as they run and the camera follows behind them in a frantic pace to gather other Jedis to go confront Palpatine? I don't know. Maybe Samuel was being discreet or whatever, but the other way just sounds more exciting in a movie. I mean, we're not making straight story, right? But they probably just had like 30 feet of green screen and track to work with, and those are the lines that they had to say, I guess. I guess it just would have been a lot harder to film if you had a camera with the Steadicam and they were running through the Jedi Temple and it was all action-packed and stuff. That would mean Lucas would have to get off his chair and stop drinking his coffee, and they would have to move all the monitors and things. But whatever doesn't require me to have to get off my chair. Don't worry about the audience. As long as you're comfortable while you're directing the film, that's all that matters. Just have them talking in front of the green screen and use 2 cameras to shoot reverse angles and have them say the lines and just get the scene over with. Just sit in the chair with your coffee and watch those monitors. Because then if you don't gotta get up, it makes it easier.
It is his way of actually trying to make the best possible film that he can.
Okay, and cut. Okay, great.
Another pretty clear example of green screen disadvantage is when the actors don't know what they're doing.
Whoa!
Like when Obi-Wan confronts Grievous. I'm gonna guess they just had Ewan McDonald standing there looking into green nothingness, and someone was telling him that Grievous was right there. But like the thing is, he lights up all of his swords and does kind of this like karate show-off stance thing, but it happens quickly, right in front of Obi-Wan's face. Grievous could have just lunged right at him super fast and cut him up into like 20 pieces. He doesn't even flinch or react to this. He just stands there, probably because Ewan had no idea what he was supposed to be looking at that particular second. This kind of stuff stands out to me, and it takes me out of the movie because it looks fake. The last example is the opposite of restriction, and if you spend enough time and effort on a sequence, you can literally do amazing things with your characters and put them anywhere. Let's look at that Mustafar fight. Obi-Wan is mad at Anakin because he killed children, also known as younglings, so that we don't have to use the phrase killed children in a movie made for children. And then Anakin is mad at Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan's a meanie head. So they fight, and they fight, and they fight more, and they keep fighting.
It was a challenge in the Anakin fight, because 3 or 4 minutes in, you get over the initial explosion of the fight, of why they're fighting.
He basically says that the character's emotional state is no longer important because the fight goes on for too long. They explain in excruciating detail just how much work went into shooting a sequence like this, and it's quite amazing the level of difficulty and complexity. All to make a sequence that the audience will ultimately find boring because there's nothing else going on other than that they're fighting. While the blue screen restricts in some cases when you don't want to spend too much time on those boring talking parts, here it can cause creativity overload. Look, I know shooting on location is a horrible pain and can get expensive. And I got respect for Lucas for the went through making the original Star Wars film. But really, the notion that bigger and more epic equals more emotion for some reason is just a fallacy. When I watch footage of George making these movies, I see a few things. I see a man that likes to keep pushing the envelope of visual effects, and a man that likes to film scenes in the comfort of a controlled environment while drinking his coffee and watching monitors.
Let's do this the old-fashioned way.
Hey, you guys see that one James Bond movie called Die Another Day? There's a pretty awesome sword fight in that movie. The neat thing about this scene is that it feels real. The guys get tired and bloody, and it really seems like they're fighting, and not just endlessly hitting each other with glow sticks inside of a video game. With this sequence, it took 58,000 people to make. 917,000 man-hours, and 243 million hours of computer animation. They weren't working on some complicated construction project. It was just a scene in a movie where two guys fight. They could have gone up to the side of some volcano somewhere and filmed them fighting there. Have a guy there with the smoke machine, in a wide shot add in a map painting background or a computer background. Have a guy pouring fake lava down the rocks when they're fighting, and have the scene be 5 minutes. The point is, Anakin loses. Number 9, the importance of Darth Vader. The biggest problem with Revenge of the Sith and all the Star Wars prequels in general was ironically Darth Vader himself. He was way overemphasized in these films for some reason. And this is the reason why these movies don't work. And look, it's got nothing to do with Hayden Christensen. He did a fine job with the material given to him. He's not a bad actor, kids, leave him alone. Even Sir Lawrence Oliver couldn't read these lines. It also wasn't the fact that Anakin was a jerk the whole time. I mean, that didn't help, but it goes beyond that. It was the fact that Vader was just so central to this story and all the events of this universe.
Darth Vader will become more.
For no reason other than he's Darth Vader and that he's famous to us. I think it showed the gross limitations in the writing. Lucas allowed the outside world to seep into the storyline when it really shouldn't have.
Since he first walked onto the screen, Darth Vader has become a cultural icon all over the world.
Shut up! We don't even need to get into that. You've all heard that crap before. But if you look back at it from a story perspective in A New Hope, he was just a weirdo in a suit. He was a part of a bigger story. Leia made fun of him to his face when he was standing right there.
I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash.
He did dirty work for Grand Moff Tarkin. The Imperial commanders didn't really respect him. They made fun of his religion.
Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped.
Until he choked them. He even flew around in a TIE fighter, where he could have easily been killed. He was a carryover from an older era, I guess. But to me, he just seemed like one of the bad guys that carried out the business of the Empire. He was like a Nazi SS officer that would go in with the troops, smash things up, and let you know that the Empire meant business. Vader's totally overblown importance started with the implied religiousness of a virginal birth to the suddenly invented notion of some kind of space prophecy that made absolutely no sense at all. Look, Vader was just some kind of robot suit. It's because everything is so tightly focused on one thing. That Darth Vader is some kind of be-all, end-all puzzle piece to complete the universe for some reason. Which at first was to bring balance to the Force.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force.
But then it was later changed to destined to destroy the Sith.
Is he not to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force?
Which makes a little more sense, I guess, because eventually Anakin does destroy the Sith by throwing poor Palpatine down a mine shaft. But that was a prophecy? Well, that was told, what, like 100 years ago? By who? Where?
The prophecy is that Anakin will bring balance to the Force and destroy the Sith. He becomes Darth Vader. Darth Vader does become the hero. Darth Vader does destroy the Sith, meaning himself and the Emperor.
Does that sound stupid to anyone else other than me? Is this real? Is this on? How about a prophecy that some guy was gonna blow up the first Death Star? I'm just going to take a wild guess here and say that in all those spin-offs and books and magazines and cartoon shows and whatever, they are Sith Lords beyond Palpatine, right? I mean, all you need are just some midichlorians and a lust for power to learn the ways of the dark side, right? So does the prophecy really make any sense? But then Anakin gets his act by Obi-Wan, causing him to be severely handicapped inside a robot suit where he can't breathe without the aid of a respirator. So really, all that for what? One scene where he kills some children and a bunch of helpless cartoon characters? Very generally speaking, you could have done these prequels in two ways to make them not totally suck. 1. Make Anakin a smaller part of a larger story. Have Anakin just be like a respected noble Jedi Knight, maybe even like a family man, and then have the dark side in the end seduce him and he does a bunch of bad things. Or 2, make a character story that focuses almost entirely on Anakin's rise and fall, which is what they did. The problem is that Lucas doesn't seem to know how to write a character like Anakin in that way. The whole character arc with Anakin just dealt with him getting more and more pissed off because he didn't have enough power to fix all the bad things in his life. Specifically people dying. It's a good thing Padme fell in love with him, or else he'd be saying, "I will someday have the power to make people love me." Anakin can't deal with loss and seeks out the dark side. Got it. Did we need to set that up over 3 films?
You're not all powerful.
Well, I should be. I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
Now this personal weakness is fine, but the huge missing ingredient is that we never got to know Anakin as a person. I don't gotta go through this again, do I? The tragedy element actually comes from caring about a character, or at the very least relating to him. We as an audience don't care at all about Anakin. The biggest missed opportunity in the whole trilogy is that we never got to see any of Anakin's training. It's always just assumed that he was trained at some point we don't see. Sure, Obi-Wan says a couple things here and there, but it's nothing extensive where we as an audience can actually learn more about the Jedi ways and understand what the f they are. When we see Luke training with Yoda, he's asking questions.
Is the dark side stronger?
No.
He's learning things, making decisions. Yoda is teaching him, and we are learning. We learn about Luke, how he thinks, how he responds to things.
We'll never get it out now.
Some of the more famous Star Wars moments come from this period of Jedi training.
Do or do not. There is no try.
We are never shown the most important character development moments in a film that's almost exclusively about a character. All we do is learn about why he's angry. I know why I'm angry. However, as poorly set up as Anakin's sudden turn to the dark side was, there is one redeeming quality here. There was some kind of temptation involved. As much as I love the ending confrontation in Jedi, the Emperor's approach always bothered me. It was because there was never really anything to tempt Luke other than just a vague threat, and the notion that the more hate you have, the more powerful you can become. Luke never really sought power, and there was nothing really for him there. All he really just had to say was no thanks. This one little moment is more interesting than anything that happened in all 3 prequel films. How Vader became Vader is not as interesting as his redemption, and how he became Vader really didn't matter. It just needed to be mentioned in one sentence.
Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force.
Oh, that happened. Number 10. Execute Order. What? So what's the deal with Order 66? I've literally hurt my brain thinking about this one. But the best I can figure out is that Lucas is writing the script and he gets to this part and he thinks to himself, what should the bad man say now? Should it be a code word like
Begin Operation Hot Zone Kill?
No, that sounds stupid. What about a number? What's like an evil sounding number? Well, 666? No, that's too obvious. How about just Execute Order 6?
Execute Order 6.
No, that's too simple. It makes it sound like they don't get that many orders to begin with. What about Order 66?
Execute Order 66.
Okay, that works. Let's move on. Number 11. The Language of Cinema. Now, if you'll permit me, I'd like to compare Revenge of the Sith with what is widely considered to be one of the greatest motion pictures ever made, Citizen Kane. Is that fair? Nope. You see, there are many levels of irony here, too many to think about, but in short, you got 2 directors that both have total control over their film. Wells used special effects to extensively tell a story, and Lucas used a story to extensively tell special effects. Now, I know that Citizen Kane is really about William Randolph Hearst, but in his own way, Lucas kind of became his own Charles Foster Kane. Going from an idealistic young filmmaker wanting to rebel against the system to becoming the system, and a bit of a weird recluse himself. Now, whether Lucas realized the personal irony or not, I think he tried to make Anakin Skywalker into his own Charles Foster Kane, and maybe what he thought would be his own film masterpiece. Everyone just always says Lucas is just a horrible commercial sellout that just made these movies to sell toys and make some money. But I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and explore this. So let's call this Citizen Vader, shall we? So you got a boy who was taken from his home and his mother at a young age.
You going, Mom? What about Mom?
And away from a bad environment, slavery, or an abusive father. Eventually he becomes an idealistic young man with a set of principles. You got the Jedi Code and Kane's own Declaration of Principles. Then slowly each character is consumed and ultimately destroyed by their own arrogance and lust for power and control, and a fear of losing the ones that they love. A fall from grace, if you will. We even have a necklace sled theme going on at the end here. It's a classic tale, really, but it just doesn't work with Anakin because the character doesn't feel like a real person because it's written so horribly. The fact is that this script feels rushed and not thought out, probably because it was rushed and not thought out.
Yeah, they're already building sets. God help me. I'm gonna have to start this script pretty soon.
Also, Lucas is notorious for not being an actor's director.
I will not betray the Republic. You know, my loyalties, so that you're turning on, but I have rewritten, I spent the whole weekend rewriting the scene between you and Palpatine, where you turn.
Yeah.
And I've added some more to that. They give you a performance. You talk about what you want to have happen. And then you do another take, and then you talk again, and you just keep going through it until you get it the way you want it.
He seems to just view actors as a tool, like a computer or a prop. You know, sometimes an actor can bring a whole new level to a scene that you didn't imagine in the first place. But in the prequels, there's a very clear line of distinction between the actor scenes and the special effects scenes. The action scenes can be animated in any way possible. There's a lot of good action in this movie, I guess. When you animate all sorts of shit, the camera can move around unrestricted and things generally move faster in a more visual way. These action scenes would be really neat if we knew or cared about what was happening. I mean, Obi-Wan's riding around on a dinosaur trying to hit a lizard who's inside a robot suit with the stick with electricity on the end, while the lizard in the robot suit is riding around on a giant robotic hamster wheel. But when it comes to the dialogue scenes between characters, it's a whole other story. The scenes typically have the blocking of a soap opera, something that's shot for efficiency reasons rather than artistic. They are so dull and unimaginative, it's almost a contradiction given the amazing environments they're set in. Film is a visual medium, and Lucas is praised for being a pioneer of film visuals because he revolutionized special effects. The irony is now when he's given two humans and some dialogue, it's a boring disaster on film. It's fairly apparent he just wants to get these scenes out of the way to get us back to the action. But in a film that's primarily a character study, apparently, is that really the way to go? Most of the dialogue scenes are done one of two ways. Either characters walking somewhere, or people sitting down, usually on a couch. The story is so bland and uninteresting, what people are saying usually doesn't connect to the environment they're in anyways. They could be anywhere, really.
I was so worried about you.
When we have a scene that starts with characters walking, they'll usually slow down and then stop. Then we'll go to what's called shot, reverse shot. Basic over-the-shoulder camera angles of two people talking to each other. This is the most basic and simplistic way to shoot dialogue scenes. Now to spice it up, at almost the exact same moment in a scene when the shot reverse shot starts to get boring, a character will walk away and go over to a window and then look out the window.
When you say, I want more, but I know I shouldn't, you can turn away.
Lucas broke new ground by giving Natalie Portman some business during a scene and having her packing a suitcase. Typically Padme scenes, though, are usually them sitting down somewhere and talking. The location will vary, the positions vary, but usually it's just them sitting there talking. In fact, one scene even begins with them already sitting down on the couch. They didn't even need to walk over to it. Hey, doesn't this lady have a job? Is her job to sit on couches all day and talk? Oftentimes during a couch scene, one person will stand up, walk a few paces away, and then turn around. In Citizen Kane, the visuals and blocking were so much more important than just telling the story about how a guy becomes a selfish a-hole. It's such a rich film in its detail and execution, and it has almost no action scenes. Well, except for the greatest room trashing scene in cinematic history, which even Tommy Wiseau couldn't top. But Kane is primarily about the characters, and it's way more interesting to watch just because of the attention to detail, the direction, and the framing. Now, comparing Episode 3 to Citizen Kane is not fair, I'll agree. Episode 3 isn't art, it's commercial diarrhea. But what irks me is just how basic and static things were filmed. They just put people in front of a green screen and said they were going to make the background interesting later. Even when they're not on the green screen, the scene construction is pretty awful and boring. Like the scene in Episode 2 when Anakin is told about what happened to his mother. Instead of coming up with the creative visual way to get this information to us, they're all just sitting at a table. This is why people are bored during these movies. It's like it's a play or something. Aunt Beru even brings out beverages. Here, would you like a refreshment? While this guy tells you about how your mother was kidnapped and raped. Wow, and then check out this exciting shot. The point I'm trying to make is that there is a very basic language to cinema that seems to have been totally ignored. You can create an emotional connection, and people will remember the movie and it'll stick with them. Then you got some movies you see and you don't even remember seeing it. Some very basic images can haunt you, they can make you laugh. Most of the time it's a simple cinematic trick to do this. Placement of characters in the frame, the setting, the length of shot, etc. I don't need to reference Citizen Kane to make this point. Let's quickly look at a basic example from the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yes, but now we must eat.
They take this simple scene of expository dialogue where an admiral basically just tells Vader that the Falcon is in an asteroid belt.
Our ships have sighted the Millennium Falcon Lord, but it has entered an asteroid field.
But they use this opportunity to do something creative with the characters and the location. We are reminded that Vader is both human and machine by showing him inside his little breathing pod. And this is also the very first time that we ever see Vader in a position of vulnerability. This adds a lot of depth to his character that we haven't seen before. The framing suggests that there's a clear separation between a normal man and what Vader has become. So whether or not you know it, your brain is being fed information about Darth Vader's character, and you're made to feel a certain way, all while we're doing the business of the plot. If this were in a prequel, it would have been done using two characters standing in a room against a green screen done in reverse shot. I guess they could have put millions of asteroids flying around the window behind them later to make the frame interesting. And when you got a set and actors and things to work with, you can make an interesting scene at the same time that your characters talk. Framing, blocking, character placement, lighting on the set, camera movement, it's all part of making a movie and making your audience feel a certain way about a scene. When Anakin pours his heart out to Padme, they're sitting on a couch. When Obi-Wan tells Padme he's gotta go kill Anakin, they're sitting on a couch. When they talk about the assassination plot, they're sitting on a couch. Sitting on a couch, sitting on a couch, talking in a room, sitting at a booth in a diner, talking in shot, reverse shot, sitting at a table, walking somewhere, walking in a room, walking and talking, standing and talking, standing and talking in a room, talking in an elevator. It's usually just two characters or sometimes three characters, and they're always talking and sitting. But it's really hard to film a complicated scene with lots of different creative camera angles when you're just sitting in a chair with your coffee.
When I shoot, I have two cameras, A camera and B camera.
A camera, B camera. Two people talking to each other in front of a green screen. And it's not just the fact that every dialogue scene is dull. It's that these films have predictable and uninteresting editing, too.
The first cut of Star Wars was an unmitigated disaster.
I come in on weekends and I recut the film on my own. And I tried to get the editor cut it my way, and he didn't really want to, and so I had to let the editor go.
It was cut in a very traditional manner of just playing things out in masters and then going into the coverage, and let the actors' rhythms dictate the cuts rather than having the cuts kind of drive the rhythm of the scenes.
Well, we'll leave this for the time being, and we'll create this other shot, and then if this other shot works, we'll come back to this shot.
So consequently, there wasn't any excitement in the footage the way that it had been put together.
It's so boring. Psychological computer program edited the movie. The pacing sucks, there's no style to anything. I could talk for 2 hours about the editing in these movies, but one little thing has always stuck out to me, is that there is almost always a dropped my lightsaber reaction shot. Sometimes it's necessary, but most times not really. I mean, when someone stops using their lightsaber, we understand they dropped it. But almost every time someone loses a lightsaber, we need to cut to a reaction shot of it falling. Like we didn't see that it happened? Or like we need to be told that this is important for some reason? It only happens one time where we don't cut to a separate shot of it falling, and it works just fine. But I think it was because the action was so fast that they couldn't cut to it, or they would have. Speaking of pigs, I mean lightsabers. Number 12, the final lightsaber fight to end all lightsaber fights. At long last, we get to the part we've been waiting for, the end of the movie. The epic duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And for some reason, it had to be epic. I don't know why. They exchange a bunch of awkward and pointless dialogue, and finally we get to the fighting. But it looks like at this point in the film, they ran out of money in the budget, because all of a sudden the visual effects no longer look so great. But we come to the end where Obi-Wan has the high ground.
I have the high ground!
Which is just 8 feet higher than Anakin. He warns Anakin not to jump up at his face and try and cut him, because Anakin's the bad guy. But Obi-Wan forgot something that happened to him before when someone else had the high ground. Or maybe Obi-Wan learned from that experience and then learned that instead of standing there, you should swing up at the guy when he's jumping over you. That's something that Darth Maul didn't learn in his training. In either case, Anakin jumps over him, he gets his arms and legs cut off, and then he rolls down the hill and lands in lava and gets burned up. Obi-Wan goes home, Palpatine shows up and brings Anakin back to his home, and their robots put Anakin together in another robot suit so that he could breathe. They just take him against his will and seal him in. Give the guy some cream or something to put on his face. I don't know, now I guess he's Darth Vader. And since Darth Vader technically appeared in this film for 10 seconds, we could put him on cereal boxes and cereal and candy boxes, and posters, Trojan boxes, whatever. So all that really happened in this ending was that Anakin shows that he's really just a murderous, crazy person that needs to be in a mental hospital. He even tries to choke pregnant Padme, the whole reason he turned to the dark side. If I were Obi-Wan, I definitely would not look back on Anakin with any kind of reverence or longing for the good old days.
And he was a good friend.
I would be uncomfortable talking about him, actually, and filled with regret that I didn't decapitate him when I had the chance. So finally we get to see Darth Vader, and the Emperor lies and tells him that he killed her.
It seems in your anger, you killed her.
And what follows could be the funniest scene in cinematic history. And then Yoda tells Obi-Wan that he should talk to Qui-Gon's ghost. What the f? No one ever mentioned to anyone ever time about talking to ghosts. I'm guessing this is in there to show that Obi-Wan was learning the Jedi trick about how to show up after you die to spout off expository dialogue, or to join in at a celebration. I guess Violent Murderer Man also learned this trick too. In the new version of Jedi, it's the young Anakin ghost that shows up. But it's the old Obi-Wan? Why does Obi-Wan have to be an old ghost and Anakin gets to be a young ghost? You see, I always interpreted this scene as just being something that Luke could only see. Or perhaps it was even in his mind. Either way, in the original version, they looked the way that Luke remembered them. Now it don't make no sense because Luke never saw young Anakin. But you know what? I'm starting to get used to this crap not making any sense. Number 13, lack of vision.
You had teeth of price for your lack of vision.
I think at this point, most people finally agree that Lucas gets too much credit for creating Star Wars. He could certainly be thanked for that initial spark and the personal torment that he went through to create the first film. I got nothing against the guy personally. I mean, I met him a couple times, but I'm just saying how I feel about these new films. Why is some nothing character like IG-88 way more cooler and memorable than, say, Dexter Jetster, or Gloomu Ooptu, or Klagnon Mugufu? But then anything that's not new is just borrowed from the original film and reused because of lack of originality, or lack of vision. Like the whole Jedi robe thing. Uncle Owen, Luke, and old Ben Kenobi dressed in the robes with the hoods, probably because it was a desert. Like if Ben Kenobi was really in hiding, why would he dress like a Jedi Knight? Uncle Owen wasn't a Jedi. And you'd think if they could program Order 66 into the brains of stormtroopers, then they could program into their brains what a Jedi Knight might wear, or what Obi-Wan Kenobi might look like. Then you got the concepts of lightning and lightsabers. Darth Vader had a lightsaber because he was a fallen Jedi Knight. He made it red because he was evil. I thought that was kind of cool and made him unique. But then Darth Maul and Count Dooku ruined it. And it became established that if you were a bad guy, your name was Darth, and that you had a red lightsaber. Hey, come up with something new! Oh wait, no, I take it back. Don't come up with something new. Wait, stop! Stop coming up with things that are new! Stop! Please, no! Also, the Emperor didn't speak highly about lightsabers.
His lightsaber.
Yes.
To him, they were like toys. And then the Emperor calls it a Jedi weapon.
Take your Jedi weapon.
But for some reason now the Emperor has one so that we can have another lightsaber fight. Anywho, so at the end of Jedi, the Emperor starts blasting Luke with electricity. I interpreted this as just one of the many powerful things that the Emperor could do because he was so evil. The lightning bolts are really just a storytelling element. The Emperor probably could have just stopped Luke's heart from beating if he wanted to kill him, or snap his neck with the Force. But he wanted to torture him. He wanted to make him suffer for not turning to the dark side. Again, not so much about the lightning itself, but more about the motivation of the characters in the scene. Luke is rendered completely helpless and is about to die. The Emperor is showing what a truly horrible is, and Vader is filled with emotional conflict. So then the next time that we see bad guys use lightning, it's because they achieved level 12 Sith status. Tell me what's happening in this scene. I don't know. The guy shooting lightning at Anakin. I'm really surprised actually that Yoda didn't shoot green lightning out of his fingers. The new films just borrow and recycle from the original ideas, as if there is no way to create anything new.
But you see the echo of where it all's gonna go.
Set his foils in attack position.
Lock his spoils in attack position.
You're gonna get us both killed.
Put that thing away, you're gonna get us all killed!
Oh god. All I hear is Star Wars inside my brain. Someone help me. Help me. My brain is collapsing inside itself. They used R2-D2 as a thing to get out of this situation they're in. Like they had it all planned out ahead of time for when they were going to escape.
R2, hit the bus droid, center eye.
Eat the nose.
Oh no. Oh no. Somebody please make it stop.
That's funny. The damage doesn't look as bad from out here.
I'm gonna do something.
Instead of destroying the Death Star, he destroys the ship that controls the robots.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
But But then the final annoying thing about this movie is how everything is tied up into a nice neat bow at the end for some reason. Is it lack of creativity? I don't know. Maybe Lucas was thinking that the audience was too dumb and needed to have everything look the way that it did at the start of A New Hope. Yoda and Obi-Wan just give up and hide for 20 years, which contradicts their forward-thinking, proactive characters. They don't even make an effort to get any information about what happened to the Galactic Senate. They could have sent it via telegram. And did the Galactic Senate operate in a democratic fashion for that long with the monster in charge who was building a Death Star? With no kind of revolt or objection to anything? Whatever. Anyway, here's what happens. So Yoda is on Kashyyyk, right? Surrounded by clone troopers? Then Chewbacca helps him escape by taking him to a tiny space egg hidden in the woods. Was that the ship that Yoda arrived on? If so, why did he park it so far away in the middle of nowhere? Wouldn't it have been landed on some kind of Wookiee landing platform? It certainly wasn't a Wookiee ship because it was way too small. Whatever. So Yoda gives up,